Democracy, the ultimate form of human productivity. A Thomistic synopsis. Democracy, like capitalism, has often got a bad reputation. Neither are bad. Rather, bad people practice political or economic wolfery under the sheepskins of democracy and capitalism. No better defense of democracy can be offered than Winston Churchill's conclusion. No one pretends that democracy is perfect or wise. Indeed, it has been said that democracy is the worst form of government except all those others that have been tried from time to time. Alex de Tocqueville wrote a seminal text on the great experiment of democracy in America. One quotation is increasingly relevant in these times of habitual politicians and son of habitual politicians. The surface of American society is covered by a layer of democratic paint, but from time to time one can see the old aristocratic colors breaking through. A goal of Timeism is to promote better problem solving so as to save the time that is wasted by unsolved problems. Democracy is the best way for a group of people to solve their common problems, if they have a democracy that is optimal for the group of people. Optimal democracy is the ultimate form of human productivity. Nowhere can a person save more time in their life than from the time invested into optimal democracy. What good is it if you have great work productivity, but your lifestyle results in you living beyond your means? In other words, your living productivity is negative. The key to better democracy is optimal. The basis of optimal is the Q2 of Timeistic relativity, that is, the quantity and quality of time in defining the democracy. Oddly, a relevant democracy can benefit from relativity being applied from the periodic table of existence, Timeism. The history of democracy shows a great variety of democracy. The origin of democracy is credited to Greece, which is known as the cradle of democracy. The widespread adoption of democracy by despots as a shield of approval and obfuscation indicates how popular democracy is in the hopes of humanity. North Korea formally labels itself the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea. Many dictators sugarcoat their despotism with titles of president and with rigged elections so as to give the appearance of democracy. In a 2002 Iraqi plebiscite held as a hallmark of democracy, Saddam Hussein won 98% of the vote for re-election. Saddam Hussein was not the first politician to use money to rig elections. If you feel sorry for the people in Iraq and in Afghanistan because of their forms of democracy and state-church unification, then you should feel sorry for Americans. The evils of state religion are coming to America in the guise of compassionate conservatism. Nothing symbolizes the Talibanization of America more than John Ashcroft putting a burqa on the spirit of justice at the Department of Justice. The evils of false democracy are descending upon America in the guise of the Bush family guise. Is there a difference between president for life, habitual politicians, son of habitual politicians, and grandsons of habitual politicians? The literal roots of democracy are demos and krasi. Demos is more than people, as is often claimed for the first half of democracy. It is more like demographics with the flavor of demolish. Optimal democracy demolishes a people's problems. Krasi in democracy is literally to rule, but forgotten in the origin and meaning of to rule, and krasi is the foundation of to work. How can you rule the problems out of your life, community, or nation if you don't have work? How can you have rule if you have no work? Krasi without work is crazy. Ask the average black citizen who had increased political empowerment with the civil rights movement, but without equal employment empowerment. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. If you don't let him fish, then you must fish for him or die for your foolishness. It's great to be taught how to fish, unless you're barred from the fishing hole. And fisher of men deserve their pancakes. If life gives you lemons, then make lemonade, unless they don't let you drink some of the lemonade. It's great to make lemonade out of lemons, as long as you're all allowed to drink some of the lemonade. How can one honestly decry the lack of the work ethic if you deny a path through the proud pond of fishing and working? And also, the idea that you can enrich humanity without work is bogus. To wit, if you teach self-esteem, you affirm a person for a day. Teach the work ethic and you affirm a person for life. The democratic relationship of to rule and to work within Greek krasi can be found in a Latin semantic parallel. Logic and lego developed from the Latin legine, which means to gather. The transition from nomadic groups to stationary societies involved the development of rules, lego, for work, logic, to gather a livelihood. Reinforcing the focus of work and survival behind logic and legal is the original agricultural crops from which these terms of civilization arose to define and encode a needed right and responsibility. Legumes. Heroic gatherers in word or deed, on fields or in court, became, of course, legends who left a legacy. A historical irony is how the roots of Roman democracy was in roots, legumes. Interestingly, legumes were gathered from around your legs. Legal scales can judge nothing if nothing is gathered as a result of no work. What is the value of laws and the law-dependent society if politicians become corrupt and illogical? Both society and politicians become self-destructive cancers that consume more than they produce. A person who relies on gut reactions and matter of opinions is less logical and more counterproductive than a thinker who relies on reason and matter of facts. For instance, the Iraq weapons of mass destruction and the American economic statistics. As a matter of mechanics, Greeks voted in an interesting way. Originally, they saved the shoulder bones of their farm animals for writing the names of candidates. On election day, everyone threw their bones into a common lot, where the bones were separated into candidate piles before the assembled voters for public counting. Besides electing people to rule, this bone process was used to exile a citizen who was deemed uncivil, regardless of whether a written law had been violated. This is the origin of the word and concept ostracize, boning someone who screwed society. Greek democracy died when Greek businessmen forced Greece into foreign wars to gain unfair business advantages. The aristocracy of Greece wasted public dollars to gain private pennies. The military misadventures, while successful, broke the backbone of Greece as an economic and military power, which is now occurring in the Bush administration of 2000. The pivotal battles involved Pyrrhus, from whence the term Pyrrhic victory originated. That is, Greece couldn't afford victory. Pyrrhus ran, in part, because he introduced the most expensive weapon of the day, elephants. The operation was successful, but the patient died. American democracy and republic is primarily based on the Roman Republic, which existed from the last king, 509 BC, until the Empire, 27 BC. Rome's democracy was based on the Greek model, with one major difference. No businessman could hold public office. Roman fathers observed the misuse of public trust and funds for private interest in Greece, the cradle of democracy. Rome's decline can be tied to the death of its democracy and rise of foreign ventures for business gains. Like Greece and other empires throughout history, Rome's military might is a false illusion of security. If you don't have a non-cancerous economic and political system, you will not only run out of time, but faster if you rely on military might to survive. The personification of, or the poster kid for destroying a public democracy for unearned private laws, privileges, was the Roman Emperor Caligula. A humorous historical note is that republic was a matter-of-fact description of the Roman democracy. Rome's democracy was limited to rich pubes, res pubis. Public described a gathering of people who had gone through puberty. In Rome, only rich pubes could run for office, as is becoming increasingly the case in America today. In America today, the Republican Party is living not only up to, but beyond the Latin origin of its name. Can you think of a better name for a Republican president than Bush? First rube or first pube? America's democracy was not perfect from the start, but Churchill's comment on democracy as a whole applies to the U.S. better than the rest. However, America's democracy is under attack by individuals who think they are better than the public in determining America's future. These people think they are privileged aristocracy or dynasty. Without change, the legacy of the Bush family dynasty will be all families dynasty. Sadly, the greatest democracy in the course of history and humanity, America, is committing and suffering the same mistakes as Greece and Rome. America is slipping, tilting towards despotism as the money dictators increasingly control politics. Greece, Rome, and Britain all decline because democracy yields to an aristocracy that uses the nation for the private business gain. The habitual politicians of America are repeating this historical mistake. Of course, we know there are no businessmen with conflicts of interest in the Bush administration. Are they Bushies or Bushiters? A class of habitual politicians have arisen from within the business community which is using America for business gains, both domestic and foreign. For a businessman, it is cheaper to buy an election-addicted politician to get tax or military subsidies than to pay a fair, honest price for goods and services. Here and abroad, it is cheaper to send in the Marines, for instance, Afghanistan and Iraq, than pay a negotiated fee. The American taxpayer subsidizes multinational corporations that use the military as gophers. We are witnessing the outcome of a democracy derived from a money dictatorship, a democracy for a few, a democracy limited to rich pubes. Sadly, many Americans think that if political disagreements are ended by giving one party total power, then America's problems will be solved. The historical demise of democracy says otherwise. Pyrrhus in Greece and Caligula in Rome. More recently, appeasement of despots failed with two militant, avenging angels of compassionate conservatism, Mussolini in Ethiopia and Hitler in Europe.